Okay, girls, so we're going to start with language of algebra in your booklet in the notes section, page 1 of the notes section. Okay, so let's get into it. So first, we're going to define what a pronumeral is. So a pronumeral is a letter that represents a number. So let's look at examples of pronumerals. And I want you to write these ones next to your notes. So any letter of the alphabet can be a pronumeral. So it can be A, B, C, D, E, and so on. Agree? Common pronumerals we use a lot: X, Y. I write the Z like this, okay, girls? Z. These are very common pronumerals. But what is important is that is whatever letter that is going to represent a number, okay? In the expression and the equations and the word problems that we're going to do is going to represent a number. Wonderful. Terms. Terms can contain a combination of numbers. Oh, it's not highlighted. Highlight in pink. So numbers, one or more pronumerals, or may consist of a so it can be a combination of numbers and, okay, pronumerals, there you go. I want you to highlight, please, highlight. It can consist only of a number, consists only of a number, and when that happens, we call it a constant. And the number that pronumeral is multiplied by is also called the coefficient. So we're going to break all this up. So let's talk about here terms. Okay, what type of terms can we have? So term, it says that it can be a combination of any letter. What does it say? I want to use the same, a combination of numbers and one or more pronumerals. So if that's true, then let's talk about different example. If I only have A, is that a term? Yes, because it's only a letter. It can be, it says here, one or more pronumerals. Wonderful. So there I have A, only one pronumeral. That's a term. Let's look at another one. What about X, Y? A combination of two pronumerals. Fantastic. What about 5Z? There we have another term. It says numbers and one or more pronumerals, or may consist of a number or a constant. So for example, if I have only a number, like for example here, 3. If I have only a number, that's also a term. And something that important here, the number that the pronumeral is multiplied by is called the coefficient. So this number that I'm going to highlight here, this one, because it's next to a pronumeral, that's this 5, we call it a coefficient. Okay, girls? Oh, how do I write coefficient? Ah, yes, with double F. Coefficient. I want to show you something that sometimes is not explained here, but I think it's a good time to explain it. Do I have any number multiplying the A? You might say no, but actually I do, because how many A's do I have? I have 1. So it's the same as if I had here a 1. So if I ask you, what is the coefficient of this first term? You can say the coefficient is 1 because it's there. The thing is that we don't write it as 1A. We write it only as A, okay? So be careful. When you're writing, the algebraic notation is that you write only A. But if I ask you, what is the coefficient there is 1. The same here, xy. What coefficient do I have there? If you said that it was 0, if you say, no, I don't have a coefficient, the coefficient is 0, what happens? What is 0 times anything? will be 0, as if you had nothing. So it can't be 0. So it will be 1, okay? So the coefficient here also is implicit. We don't write it down, but it's implicit. It means here I have a 1, okay? Wonderful. So that's all of these are examples of terms. I'm going to do another example of term. X squared. That's also an example of a term. What does this one mean? It means x times x. Agree? But we don't write it like this. We write it as x squared. You might be thinking, oh, Mr. Chad wrote here a dot instead of a multiplication sign. I will do this a lot when I'm doing algebra. And the reason why I will use this dot, because if I write, I'm going to write it here. X times x. Do you see how it looks very confusing? Even though I'm trying to do my x with that little to symbolize that I'm talking about the pronumeral here. I'm not doing like an x like this, agree? I'm doing it like with that little tails to symbolize that I'm talking about the pronumeral. It can be very confusing if you have the multiplication sign with an x. So now that you're in high school, I recommend that you start, instead of using the x for multiplication, you use a dot. And that's also algebraic notation, mathematical notation. You will see it later on that in a lot of places they use this dot to symbolize multiplication, okay? So that's another example of a term. Wonderful, girls.